An American tourist in a cowboy hat saw the Queen's Guard as part of his show. Armed with a lasso and confidence, he tried to outshine tradition. But when the stoic guard took a single step, the crowd froze. What happened next turned the tourist into the star of a viral video for all the wrong reasons. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share the untold stories, secrets, and traditions of the British Guards every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. The sun drenched Buckingham Palace in a golden glow, its regal majesty drawing throngs of tourists eager for a glimpse of the iconic Queen's Guards. Cameras clicked, children squealed, and tour guides herded their flocks with hurried efficiency. Amidst this symphony of chaotic admiration, emerged a single figure who seemed determined to steal the show. A burly Texan clad in a loud plaid shirt, weathered cowboy boots, and a Stetson hat perched at a rakish angle, Chuck strode through the square as if it were his personal rodeo. His booming laugh turned heads, his swagger dared anyone to look away, and his attitude screamed one thing: entitlement. After all, Chuck wasn't here to quietly marvel at British tradition. He was here to rewrite it. Spotting a Queen's Guard standing resolute near the gates, Chuck's eyes lit up with mischief. "Y'all ever seen a cowboy make a royal laugh?" he hollered, loud enough to rival the palace bells. His words earned a mix of laughter, groans, and curious glances from the growing crowd. Without waiting for a response, Chuck dove into his oversized backpack and pulled out a neatly coiled lasso. Yes, a lasso, because what better way to honor centuries of British tradition than with a piece of Texan flair? "Let me show y'all a real Texan trick," Chuck announced, spinning the rope above his head with exaggerated flair. Phones shot up like a paparazzi swarm, eager to capture what was bound to be a viral moment. The guard stood stoic, his imposing figure framed by the tall bearskin hat that cast a shadow over his calm, disciplined face. To Chuck, this unflinching resolve wasn't a symbol of duty, but a challenge. "You think you're tougher than a rodeo bull, huh?" Chuck taunted, aiming his lasso with theatrical precision. The crowd held its collective breath. The rope soared and landed in a tangled heap at the guard's feet. A wave of laughter rippled through the square, but Chuck was unfazed. "Hold on now," he said, reeling in the rope. "This cowboy don't quit that easy." As Chuck prepared for another attempt, the guard remained a pillar of composure. The contrast was striking. Chuck's chaotic bravado versus the guard's unyielding dignity. The crowd buzzed with mixed reactions, some cheering Chuck on, others shaking their heads in disbelief. And somewhere, amidst the laughter and disbelief, a single thought seemed to echo in the air. Seriously, who acts like this? But Chuck was just getting started. Little did he know, the joke was about to be on him, and the day's events would take a turn no one saw coming. Chuck's second attempt was nothing short of a one-man Wild West performance. He struck a dramatic pose, legs apart, one hand resting on an imaginary holster while the other gripped the lasso like a prize-winning gunslinger. Narrowing his eyes, he squinted into the distance as if the stoic guardsman were an outlaw on the run. "This one's gonna stick, y'all," he proclaimed, his voice booming over the murmur of the crowd. For a moment, even the pigeons paused their scavenging to see what this audacious Texan would do next. Chuck launched the lasso with the confidence of a man who had never doubted himself a day in his life. The rope flew through the air and snagged. Not the guard himself, of course, because dignity and centuries of tradition wouldn't allow that, but the very edge of the guardsman's rifle. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. "Gotcha, partner," Chuck shouted triumphantly, yanking the rope as if he had just roped a prized steer. The guardsman, however, remained as still as a marble statue, his composure unshaken. But physics had no such discipline. The tension in the rope sent Chuck stumbling backward. His boots skidded on the cobblestones, and with an ungainly flail, he crashed to the ground in a heap. His beloved Stetson soared through the air like a fallen star, landing squarely at the polished boots of the guard. The crowd erupted in laughter, some delighted, others incredulous. A small boy's voice piped up from the throng. "Mom, is he allowed to do that?" A murmur of agreement followed, though no one seemed willing to intervene. After all, this was turning into free entertainment. Finally, the guard moved. Just one precise, deliberate action. He shifted his foot slightly, sending Chuck's hat tumbling across the cobblestones and into the nearby fountain. The crowd's laughter reached a fever pitch. Chuck scrambled to retrieve his soaked hat, boots squelching as his jeans absorbed the fountain's cold embrace. Yet, even drenched and humiliated, he waved off the embarrassment. "All right, folks," he shouted, wringing out his hat. "Third time's the charm." The crowd, torn between disbelief and anticipation, braced for what this cowboy-turned-clown would do next. Chuck's determination reached absurd heights as he returned to the guard. This time, he pulled out a second prop, a small American flag, and waved it in front of the guard's face. "Let's see you stay serious with some good old freedom in your face," he bellowed, to both cheers and groans from the audience. The guardsman remained unflinching, his stone-like expression unchanged. But as Chuck waved the flag closer, the guard's eyes flickered, just for a split second. Chuck froze, certain he had seen a reaction. "Y'all saw that, right? He moved. I got him." The crowd erupted, some insisting the guard hadn't budged, while others egged Chuck on. Emboldened, Chuck tried once more to lasso the guard, shouting, "Come on, cowboy up!" This time, the rope caught the brim of the guard's bearskin hat. Another gasp echoed, but before Chuck could revel in his triumph, the guard took one deliberate step forward. The movement was so sudden and precise that it startled Chuck into falling backward again. The crowd cheered as Chuck scrambled to his feet, now genuinely rattled. The guardsman leaned down ever so slightly and whispered, "Sir, please respect the Queen's guard." Chuck's eyes widened. "He speaks!" he shouted, pointing dramatically, but the crowd only laughed harder. No one believed him. Chuck, now the butt of the joke, looked around helplessly. By now, Chuck was flustered, his ego battered, but he wasn't done yet. "All right, y'all, time to pull out the big guns," he muttered, rummaging in his bag. He retrieved a large fake sheriff's badge and slapped it on his chest. "I hereby deputize myself to get this man to smile," he declared. With dramatic flair, Chuck struck a pose reminiscent of an old Western showdown. The guardsman remained statuesque, his impassive gaze fixed straight ahead. Suddenly, the guard's horse, standing nearby, snorted loudly. Startled, Chuck turned to face the animal, just as it flicked its tail, sending a perfectly aimed swat of drool and water straight onto Chuck's cowboy hat. The crowd erupted in hysterics. Chuck stood frozen, drenched, his hat now a soggy mess. The guardsman, still motionless, allowed the faintest hint of a smirk to flicker across his lips, so brief it was almost imperceptible. But for those who caught it, it was pure gold. Defeated, Chuck sloshed back toward the crowd, muttering, "Man, y'all don't play around here." A child handed him a small Union Jack flag, and he accepted it with a sheepish grin. As Chuck retreated, the guardsman straightened his posture, adjusting his hat with the utmost precision. The crowd, still chuckling, began to disperse. The guard, ever the professional, resumed his post, a silent pillar of discipline amid the chaos. Chuck, however, became an instant viral sensation. By the time he reached his hotel, the internet was flooded with videos of his antics, all captioned, "Cowboy versus the Queen's Guard, guess who won?" If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and let us know in the comments which guard tradition you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.